So instead of looking at just cash buyers, we can look under ownership info and we can look at number of properties owned. So let's say we want to do cash buyers who own a minimum of 5 properties. And then let's see what we get. So now of those nearly 5,000 cash buyers, we've got 3,000 that own 5 properties or more. Those are going to be your more serious cash buyers, right? Because they didn't just do one deal, they've done at least 5. Welcome back. Today we are talking with Hector, who is a US Army veteran who's only been in his wholesale journey for 4 months, but has already made nearly 100 offers, yet none of them have been accepted. So today we're talking through some of the initial hurdles that he's running into, such as the terms he's giving the seller when he's making the offer, as well as looking at a set of comps that a real estate agent sent him and comparing them to the comps that we found on our own. Today's episode is great for anyone who hasn't yet done a deal, but feels like they have the skill sets and the knowledge, and most of all, the motivation to do whatever it takes to get it done, because we dive into the nitty gritty of exactly what you need. If that sounds like you, please don't forget to change the color of the like button. It really does help this channel to grow and helps me to continue putting out these episodes. So thank you so much for doing that. And let's get into the show.
Yeah, I saw the opportunity to be able to analyze a deal together, so I took it.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to have you here. I don't know if that's just plants inside your place or if everything outside looks that nice. But what part of the country are you in? Did you get any snow recently?
No, I actually live in the Bay Area. We've had a lot of rain, though.
What part of the Bay?
I am in, I guess you would consider it North Bay. I am in Vallejo.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. And is that where you're thinking about investing, or are you looking to go somewhere else?
So yeah, these past 4 months, I've been focusing here locally here in Vallejo. And to say the least, it's been very competitive. So I have been kind of expanding my boundaries to places like, Alameda, Napa, Sacramento. So yeah, just exploring new markets to see where I can get in,
Yeah. When you say competitive, what do you mean? Have you been making offers? Have you just been seeing that properties go fast? What are you seeing?
Both. So yeah, it seems like properties come on and once they're live, they only last maybe about a week. If they're lucky, a couple of weeks. And I've been making offers, but I feel like my lack of experience is kind of what was holding me back a little, because I'll make an offer and obviously it's not accepted because people are offering higher amounts and waiving contingencies and things like that. And I think I'm not at the level where I feel confident to do the same. I can't be offering more. I can't waive contingencies because it's the only thing that protects me in a deal. So yeah.
That makes total sense. If you were to get a property, what are you wanting to do with it? Are you wanting to keep it for yourself? Are you wanting to wholesale? What are you looking to use?
Yeah, focusing on wholesaling mainly. I don't have a lot of funds, so my main thing is wholesaling to try and build funds to eventually, find an investment property where maybe I can fix and flip or buy and hold.
Right.
So yeah, that's really what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. So I totally love that strategy. Have you only been looking for deals on market, or have you considered looking off market as well?
So I've done both. I use PROPSTREAM and I've SKIPTRACE lists and done the cold calling on that. I've also used, the mainstream platforms like Redfin, Zillow. And yeah, I chase whatever deal I feel is a good deal. And, I give it my best.
Yeah. So wholesaling on market versus off market is a hot debate, and it has been ever since I started doing my first deal. On-market properties are those that are already listed for sale, typically by a real estate agent, and you'd find them on a website like Redfin or Zillow. Off-market properties are properties that are not listed for sale, where you would have to go directly to the homeowner and ask them if they want to sell their property. There are pros and cons to each, but the biggest difference is that on-market properties are free to find. Redfin and Zillow are free. You can go on there and you can look. But that also means that there's going to be far more properties that are not investor friendly. Most of the properties that you find on market are not going to be in bad condition and selling for a discount. On the other hand, if you go off market, it's not free. You have to spend money to find those homeowners on a product like PropStream or Privy, or send direct mail through something like Ballpoint Marketing. But you can target only the properties that would be a good deal for you. And so you have the opportunity to make bigger and better deals, typically off market than you will on market. A lot of people who are new to the game like to start with on market because it is so much less expensive. But my recommendation is that regardless of which you choose, you always are 100% honest and upfront with the seller or the real estate agent if you plan to wholesale the deal. If they decide not to work with you, that is their right. Move on and find another. In the last 4 months, how many offers do you estimate that you've made?
It's on an average, I'd say 4 to 5 per week. So at least 20 a month.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You're getting up there with numbers. And have any of them been accepted, or everything you've put out has just been they've accepted something else?
Yeah. So yeah, none of my offers have been accepted.
Gotcha. Were those all on market properties, or have you made offers on off market as well?
Both, but I would say majority have been on market.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. When you're looking at your off market deals, or even when you're just looking for a deal in general, what are some of the criteria that you're looking for? Condition, age, price point. What are you looking at specifically?
Condition, price point. So I'm basically focusing on fix and flip. So the worse the property is, the better, I say, just based off of the investors that I'm connected with and what they're looking for.
Right.
So yeah, distressed properties is probably my main game.
And what are the prices? I know Bay Area is expensive, but what are you generally coming across?
Wow. Yeah. So I let's see, the range would probably be anywhere from $550K and then down to about $320, $325.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, expensive, right? But when you're making these offers on kind of the distressed properties, the price range, I just want to know if there's you feel like there's a substantial gap between what it's for sale for when it's distressed versus what you think it could sell for once it's renovated.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a gap. So let's say on an average, majority of the properties I'm finding are about $350K. They're listed at $350K, and top ARV is usually between $550 to $600K.
Okay, great. So yeah, that's the good thing about, there's pros and cons to the higher price markets and the lower price markets. Like in a low price market, if the house is for sale for $80K and once it's fixed up, it could sell for $120, there's not a ton of wiggle room in there, versus 300 something to 500 something. Now you've got, bigger wholesale fees, things of that nature.
Absolutely.
Competition in the expensive areas, but when you catch something, it's usually a bigger hit. Does that make sense? What do you want to do today? Do you want to go over a deal together first? Do you have other questions that you want to ask first? We can do both, but it's however you want to approach it.
I guess we could talk about some of the challenges or obstacles that I've been running into.
Sure.
And then maybe we can analyze a deal if you'd like.
Perfect. What's on your list of obstacles?
I'm finding that I lack not only experience, but connections. I've been doing a lot of searching for meetings and things of that nature. A lot of the local stuff, like the local meetups. So a lot of those groups no longer meet. So kind of after COVID, a lot of people went virtual. So they're meeting online. And I'm finding that it's hard to connect with people online. The meetings are kind of short, and I end up getting a lot of emails and numbers. And when I follow up, I'm not getting a lot of response or feedback from these people. So I think that's one of my biggest obstacles, is just a lack of connections.
That makes sense. Where do you find most of these groups? Just Facebook groups, Bigger Pockets forums? Where are you connecting with these people?
I use the Meetup app. And there's a bunch of groups in there that meet locally, but I just found one actually last week that meets in person. So I ended up attending that, and I did meet some people there, but kind of the same story. I reached out to them after the meeting, and I think one person got back to me, but they're not really ready to team up. So
yeah. What are your outreach messages look like? What are you saying?
They've changed a little bit recently. Before I would kind of just be like, hey, my name is Hector. I'm new to investing. Let's connect and see how we can bring some value to each other. And I noticed I wasn't getting a lot of feedback from that. So I'm learning now that I got to try and see how I can be valuable to somebody else that I may need as a connection, and just trying to figure out what skills I can bring to the table that may be helpful to them. So I'm kind of trying to package my emails in that way.
One of the most important things that you can do while networking with other investors in your market is, one, make sure that you're networking with people who are actually doing deals. It's great for beginners to connect, and you should do that as well. But you should also make sure that you are getting connected to the people who are actually doing deals, because those are the ones who are going to buy them when you actually send a good one their way. The second thing is, don't ask them how you can help them. But one, tell them what you're good at, what your skill sets are. And then two, ask them specifically what type of deal they're looking at. Do they have a price range? Do they have a specific neighborhood or zip code that they buy in? Do they have a specific level of damage, size of house, whatever it might be? You want to ask specifics so they can give you easy answers and you can go find those deals. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what do you feel are your skill sets? Like, what could you bring to the table? And if you can't think of anything, we can kind of brainstorm and make a list together.
So I think because I'm a U.S. Army veteran, I have skills like leadership, so I know how to accept and execute responsibility for tasks, for resources, for my own behavior, teamwork, obviously, because in the military, you're trained to work as a team, camaraderie, definitely strong work ethic, a self-starter. I'm about core values, integrity is huge for me. The ability to handle stressful situations, I have pretty good emotional control, so I don't let things get to me so easily. And yeah, those are some skills that I bring to the table. And obviously I'm fairly new to this, only 4 months into it, but I have been doing a lot of cold calling, a lot of email management, a lot of, agent outreach, things like that I've been polishing up and getting stronger at, because I'm building my own business and I'm doing it all alone. So it's overwhelming at times.
Right. Well, for one, both my parents are also Army veterans, so thank you for your service. And
right on. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll pass it on to them. All the things that you said, like, that sounds like an email right there, right? Like, hi, my name is Hector. I'm a U.S. Army veteran who's now moved into real estate investing. I am skilled at organization, at cold calling, and property research, right? I think like that's a great list. And then what I always like to finish up those emails with is like asking them a specific question about what they need. And I think the question, what do you need, is a little bit too broad, but a good one is something like, what types of properties are you looking for in terms of location or price point? And I can send them to you when I come across them, right? And so I think getting really, really specific with the type of value that you can offer would be a big help. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. That's something I haven't offered quite yet. And yeah, I think I have to kind of mix up the way I format it and the questions I'm asking, like you said. Yeah. Being specific and more clear about the things I offer and maybe the things that they may need help on.
Yeah, exactly. And what type of person are you mostly connecting with? Are these other new investors? Are they other wholesalers? Are they cash buyers? Who are you talking with?
A little bit of everything. At first, when I first started, it was too big for me. It was very overwhelming. I didn't know where to start. So I had to kind of get good at breaking down tasks, so, okay, today I'm going to focus on reaching out to buyers. Tomorrow I'll focus on, doing some agent outreach. And then the following day, finding properties and evaluating, running the numbers, doing walkthroughs and things of that nature. So yeah, that's kind of how I've been breaking down my tasks and what I've been focusing on.
Got you. Okay, great. And you said you have PropStream, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. I want to show you one thing, and maybe you've already done this, but just in case you have it, I just want to show you kind of a way to look at finding properties. You said you're in the Vallejo area, right?
Yes.
One thing we can look at is using something like Redfin to find where distressed properties are, and then using PropStream to find where the cash buyers are and seeing where the overlay is, right? And that'll kind of show you what's the hot spots where there's lots of distressed properties and also lots of investors buying there. And then I would be trying to reach out to the most active buyers, because the best thing that a buyer can have is a steady stream of leads. And so if they can tell you, yeah, Hector, I'm looking for XYZ type of property, that's just like one more hook in the water that they've got. And then you can, be looking to find those properties. So
sure.
Let me.
Yeah, that'll definitely be helpful. I just noticed both of us are wearing white hoodies.
I know, right? I like it. We got we're right there, man. We're right there.
We're in uniform.
Exactly. So I've got Vallejo pulled up here, right? And do this for any market. And one of the things I like to do is come over to where it says all filters here on the right. And then if you scroll down, there's this keyword search. And I like to search for any word that's going to give me an indication that that's a distressed property, right? So one of the ones I like to do is as dash is. And then I like to see what's listed there. So we've only got one house right now that's showing, let me remove the outline, that's showing as is. There's one up here as well. But there's other things we could also look for, such as needs work is a keyword that I like to use. I don't have any there. Let's see. Any other terms you're thinking of? I like investor.
I've never used the keyword search. I typically just click on the box where it says fixer upper.
Yeah. So I've used that too. What I've found is that the agents don't always tag it as a fixer upper. We've got 11 here, which is good. So that's a good one to do fixer upper. And then for the ones that aren't tagged as fixer upper, you can also use the keyword search. Things like opportunity, investor special, handyman special, as is, needs work are all kind of good keywords to search for, right? And then as I look at these properties, again, I don't know the Vallejo area, right? But I do see that kind of up here in this, what is that, northwest kind of area, there's a little bit of a cluster of these properties that maybe are fixer-uppers. So then what I like to do is just take that information and pair it with, let me share this tab, pair it with going on PropStream. And now I'm looking at Vallejo in PropStream. I know it's kind of small.
Okay.
And I'll change this to a map view so we can kind of see the same view. And they have this section where you can look at where are the cash buyers, right? So I just hit this cash buyers tab up here. And now I can see, well, if I want to look in that same area where I see houses for sale that are distressed, I could also look at these cash buyers. And I believe if we go up here to filter, there's also a way, right here. So instead of looking at just cash buyers, we can look under ownership info and we can look at number of properties owned. So let's say we want to do cash buyers who own a minimum of 5 properties. And then let's see what we get. So now of those nearly 5,000 cash buyers, we've got 3,000 that own 5 properties or more. Those are going to be your more serious cash buyers, right? Because they didn't just do one deal, they've done at least 5. We can even just see, let's take that up to 10. Let's see what we get. Now we've got 2,000 cash buyers that own 10 properties or more. I just want to see, I'm just interested to see what happens if we say minimum of 50 owned. Now I've got 800 cash buyers that own 50 properties or more in the Vallejo area, right? And those are different properties, right? So it might not be that some of these cash buyers might be the same, but I've got 800 properties that are owned by someone who owns 50 properties or more. The reason I pull this up is because these are your more serious buyers. These are the ones that if you are specifically offering to solve a problem for them are more likely to get back to you because they're the ones actually doing real business, you know? And then you could take this list, you could save it on PropStream. You can SKIPTRACE that list for, you know, I think it's like 10 cents each, cold call those buyers and then work your new script to kind of have conversations with those that are a little bit more serious and it'll get back to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, great. Awesome. What other questions? Either on that topic or another topic's totally fine. This show doesn't yet have any sponsors, but we'll just say that it's sponsored by my Run the Numbers monthly training program, which Hector and everyone else you see on this show are a part of. If you would like to get on a one-on-one call and evaluate a deal with me in the same way that Hector and I are about to do, I'll put a link to join that program in the description. It comes with a 3-day free trial where you can access all of the deals that I evaluate on a monthly basis, as well as sign up to be on the show and have a one-on-one call with me. And the specific deal that Hector and I are about to go through is one that'll be featured in that program this month. So let's get into it.
An issue I've been running into is I'll call an agent, for example, and ask about the property, and I'll offer for them to represent the buyer side. And some of them agree. So we move forward. And then when it comes time to make and write up the offer, I will present the terms. And it's been a handful of times where the agents end up backing out and they say, hey, I can't represent you after reviewing the terms because, I just have to protect my client or whatever. They haven't been very specific. They don't point out which term is the deal breaker. And I've asked before, but I didn't get an answer. So that's something, I don't know if the terms that I have are, asking too much or what it is about them.
Okay, great. Whenever you're making an offer on a property, there are certain terms that you're going to need to send over to the seller or to the real estate agent. Not just, I want to buy it for this price. It's going to include things like how much earnest money are you going to put down? When does that earnest money become non-refundable? Can you assign the contract? Where will the title and the closing be held? All of these things are listed on my offer sheet template, which comes in my free resource pack, which I'll put a link to below. It includes not just that offer sheet template, but also phone scripts on how to talk to agents and other free resources to help you get started. Link to that will be in the description. I want to know what terms you're typically offering. If you have an offer that you sent over, I would love to kind of go over it. But also let me see if I can fix my light just real quick. 1 second.
No worries.
So yeah, what type of terms are you generally asking for?
The regular stuff, obviously the name or the business name that's going into the contract, how much earnest money is going to be deposited if the seller accepts. That brings up a good point because I usually offer $1,000 for earnest money deposit because I don't have a lot of money. And I am finding that there are other buyers that are offering like way above that. Which I can't really compete with. I also have 10 to 15 day inspection, 30-day close, a cash offer, no finance contingencies. And then I have buyer has a right to add additional buyer to the contract prior to closing. This offer is subject to buyer's partner's approval within 10 business days after seller's acceptance. And then I also have, in the event that the buyer defaults or does not perform on any provision of this agreement, for any reason, the seller may retain the earnest money deposit as their sole remedy under this assignment. And I have one final one. Buyer or buyers reserves the unqualified right to transfer the interest in this agreement to any person or entity at his or her sole discretion and shall no longer be responsible for any terms or conditions in this contract.
My guess is it's that last one. Okay. That's my guess. Right. And I don't know, because every deal is different. Every real estate agent or seller that you're working with is different. So there's no cut and dry. But I think if you haven't had a conversation with the agent during the negotiation process that, hey, I am going to assign this contract to my end buyer, to my investing partner, whatever it is going to be, then that last section probably comes as a surprise to them, right? So
Okay.
what types of conversations are you having ahead of time with the agents about wholesaling and assigning the deal?
I don't ever mention wholesaling. I have mentioned that assigning the deal is a possibility or an exit strategy that I'm looking at, or one of the exit strategies I'm looking at, but I've never really come out and say like, hey, I'm a wholesaler, or I'm trying to wholesale the deal.
Yeah, and I totally get that, because people sometimes have a negative, impression of wholesaling. And unfortunately, there are people out there who don't do it right. And that's one of the reasons that I try to make content, right? Is to share some different methods that I think can help people do it the right way. Trying to do it the right way myself. I think that if you can communicate and prepare the agent as much as possible ahead of time, not only is it going to make it more likely that it works out, but it's also going to save your time, right? Because I know it stinks to go through this entire process and spend so much time just to get to the last step and have the agent back out, right? So some of the things that I like to communicate are, hey, I'm not the end buyer for this. I'm working with another investor, and I'll be assigning them the contract prior to our inspection period ending. So, once our inspection period ends, we'll be set to close, right? So sometimes when people think about wholesalers, they think, oh, we're closing in 30 days. They're going to back out on day 29, right? But if you let them know, hey, we're going to make sure all this is good to go by the time our inspection period is over, then now it's 10 days. It's not 30 days that they're kind of worrying. So that can be one way. And then I would also just accept that if they are dead set on not working with someone who's going to assign the contract or going to wholesale it, then that's their choice, right? And you kind of see if there's an issue that you can solve. And if not, then move on to the next deal. But I would try to have that conversation earlier before you ever send over the offer sheet.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
And I also have an offer sheet template that lists out the terms that I share. My language is slightly different than yours, but it's very, very similar in terms of the items that are on there. But I'll share that with you so you can see, what you think of that language and making the adjustments that you like.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I'll email it to you
I would like that.
right after the call. If I don't, I'm making a note, but if I don't, just email me and let me know. I'll get it over to you. What else you want to talk about? Or are you ready to run numbers on a deal? Either one.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and analyze the deal.
All right, cool. Is it listed on market?
Yeah, I found it on Redfin.
Okay, great. What's the address?
It is 217 Contra Costa Street in Vallejo, California.
Got it.
94590.
So what immediately stood out to you about this property?
Right where it says about this home, it says needs TLC. I was like, okay, let me see what's going on with this property. I noticed the square footage has a lot of living space compared to a lot of the other houses I've been looking at. And I was like, hey, well, let me check it out. So I ended up reaching out to the agent. I got a bunch of information from the agent. He was very talkative and explained the whole thing. It's a tenant occupied. There's a Section 8 tenant in there that still owes $370,000+ on the loan. It has deferred maintenance. He thinks top ARV for this property would be $600K.
Let's kind of go through this together and see if we can verify. When I'm running on Redfin, I like to hit this map right here, and then where it says nearby homes for sale kind of takes us to this new window. So our tab is our property's right here in the middle. And then if I zoom out a little bit so I can see the neighborhood, I don't know the Vallejo area, right? But if our property's right here, where did you kind of set your boundaries for how far away you wanted to run comps?
I usually set it half mile radius.
Okay.
I try not to cross over any major streets or freeways.
Yeah. So on Redfin, I'm not sure if you can set like that radius precisely.
Right.
I do know that on PROPSTREAM, if I go here and we look at the same property, 217 Contra
Street.
There we go. So if we do it on PROPSTREAM and I go to details, and then I go to comps and nearby listings, you can look at the radius. So this is here, right? PropStream's got it set at half a mile. So that's,
Okay.
if you want to do it that way, I know how to do it on PropStream. But if you were going to do it based on the goal of not crossing major roads, how would you kind of outline this property?
So I guess as long as I'm not crossing Solano Avenue and then also Sonoma Boulevard, which is, it's in yellow. I guess it's called Highway 29 on there.
Yep. And then this other highway.
And then I probably wouldn't want to, that. And I wouldn't want to cross Tennessee Street because once you cross over to the north of that, the houses change. Like it's a much nicer neighborhood.
And how do you know that? Is that because of your local knowledge?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is one of the benefits of investing in an area that you know, right? For myself, I don't know this neighborhood. And so I might have gone all the way up to Nebraska, or I might have even gone up to Redwood Street because I'm not sure. But having that local knowledge is great. And for someone who doesn't have the local knowledge, or if there's a neighborhood you come across that you're not sure about, you can always look at the price differences. Right. So if I see that this is what these houses down here are selling for, and then up here it's 1.52 million, well, then I know, oops, I went too wide. And I kind of want to draw it back, which is why I like manually drawing rather than just using like half a mile or a 1 mile radius.
Yeah, that's helpful. I haven't actually done that before, but definitely going to start using that.
Yeah. And what I do is I just hit this minus button. I zoom out a little bit so I can see like where are the highways, where are the main roads, and then I just draw around it on Redfin.
Okay.
Then from there, we can go to looking at the houses that have sold within our little box within the last 6 months. Do you happen to have the address of any of your comps?
I have one here. It's 310 Mayo Avenue.
I don't see 310 Mayo.
See the ones. Okay. Let me back up a little bit. So the comps I used were the comps that the agent sent me.
Yeah.
So I told him I wanted to stick to a half mile radius, and he's like, sure, I'll send you some comps, and this is what I have. So I ended up running the comps with what he sent me. I didn't actually go and find these sold properties like you did.
That's okay. So if we look at, I just looked it up, 310 Mayo, and this is a good way to start, right? I think, especially if you're new and you're like, I don't necessarily know how to find comps, asking the listing agent for their list of comps is a great place to start. And then you can like dig in and see what you think of them. So it looks like 310 Mayo is on the other side of Solano Avenue. And so that's why it's not showing up on our list.
I see.
Also, what's interesting about this property, and I'm just reading this right now, is that it says it's 2 units, right? Like it's a duplex rather than a single family home.
Yeah.
Right. So even though I know the agent sent you that one, I would probably disqualify it for those 2 reasons, right? It crosses a major road, and we don't want to compare a duplex to a single family.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
That's good. We just got to keep looking through. So what's another one that he sent you?
So he sent me this one. It's 820 Carolina Street.
Okay, yeah, I see it right here. So when you hover over, it turns it red on the thing. So I see 820 Carolina. And if we click into it, what's interesting here is when an agent is running comps, they may be thinking about the situation slightly different than me and you are as an investor, as a wholesaler. They're likely thinking, okay, 217 Contra Costa, what are properties that are comparable to this property in its current state, right? Because they're thinking, what is this property worth today? So they're looking at what are other properties that are in the same situation worth. But for us, when we're trying to find our ARV, which is our after repair value, we're thinking, what are properties that are similar but already fixed up worth? Because we want to know what will this be worth to our cash buyer when they renovate it, right?
Right.
So while it's good to get an idea from the agent about what are the comps for it today, oftentimes when I'm running my own numbers, I'm actually not looking for today's comps. I'm looking for future comps.
Okay.
Does that make sense? The kind of the difference of what we're looking for?
Yeah, for sure.
And so I say that because this property, it may be very similar to the property that we're looking at today in terms of it looks like somebody's living there. I don't know what happened with the bottom of the dishwasher or the door to this cabinet, but maybe there's a little bit of deferred maintenance. It looks like we got a basement. Just looks like a normal house that somebody's living in. Whereas if we go back to our list, what I would actually be looking for are already renovated properties that tell me what my property could be worth when I'm done or when the cash buyer is done renovating it. But it also shows me if there's investors actively buying in this area. Because if there are, then that gives me more confidence that I can find a cash buyer to assign my contract to.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
What I went ahead and did was I just sorted our list of 39 homes that have sold in this area, and I sorted it by price, high to low. And this one is like some crazy 10,000 square foot mansion. So I'm just going to ignore that, right? It's not going to be similar to our little rental house that we're looking at. Now we've got our houses sold high to low. And one thing I just noticed real quick is when I look at the description, this is a duplex. And so we actually don't really want to compare our single family house to other duplexes. So I'm going to change the home type to house only. So it hopefully shouldn't include those multifamilies.
Okay.
And then what I'm looking for, and I like Redfin because you can just click through the pictures right from here on the homepage. Here's one of the comps that your agent sent you. Is I'm looking for a freshly renovated property.
What are like the margins that you look for as far as square footage? Like the property in question is 2393, so 2,393 square foot, and then this one is 1850. Would that be something that qualifies as a comparable?
Yeah. So generally, what I try to do is I try to go like one step at a time. First, I look at is this property updated by an investor? If yes, then I look at the square footage. And a good rule of thumb is like more or less 500 square feet. So it could be 500 square feet smaller or 500 square feet bigger. But that's an art, not a science. So if I have a bunch of properties that are like within 100 square feet as comps, and then I have one that's 500 square feet bigger, then I'll get rid of that one that's bigger because it's kind of an outlier. Right. So I'll kind of go up to 500, but I really value the ones that are as close as possible.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So this one, let's assume that this is an updated property, right? That an investor just renovated this. It's freshly renovated. Unlike the one we saw previously where it's like somebody's obviously living there. Let's say, yes, this property has been freshly renovated by an investor, which is what we're looking for because that tells us our ARV, tells us that investors are active in that area. Then that's when I look at the size of the property. So this one is 1850 and our subject property is 2393. So it's a little bigger. What do you think of that? Do you think that's still comparable or no?
It's a little over the 500, but I mean, it just depends, I guess, what the other properties, the other comparables are like.
I agree. I think you kind of got to keep going and get a feel for the neighborhood and the size. I think it's probably right on that barrier, but for now it's close enough to keep. The other thing that I look at next is the bedroom and bathroom count. This is a 4-bed, 2.5 bathroom that we'd be comparing it to. And ours is a 3-bed, 2-bathroom. What do you think there?
So, yeah, I mean, obviously that extra bedroom does change the living experience. So, I mean, if we could find comparables, I guess, that are closer to that, 3.2 or 3.1 maybe. What advice do you have for that?
Yeah, I agree. I think that again, exacts are better. So and we'll go back to our list in a moment, right? Where we can look at all the other properties, but exacts are better. But what's interesting is this property's bigger, but it has one fewer bedroom and one fewer half bathroom. And so it's kind of bigger property, fewer bedrooms, smaller property, more bedrooms, maybe that balances out. I don't know, but it's just something interesting to think about. I think for now, I probably wouldn't disqualify this one as a comp based on that. I think they're still relatively similar. Some other things that we can look at are the style of house. So if there's not a picture of the front of the property, which sometimes there's not, I like to go to the street view. So we can see, looks like this is what our property looks like. Kind of, this might be the back alley.
That's what it looks like.
Let's see if we can find our way to the front of the property. And this is one of the things that's like when you're investing virtually, right? Like I don't live here. I'm not quite sure how to get out of this back alley view. Try to find the main road. But if somebody's living there personally, if you're driving for dollars, then, you have a little bit of an advantage that you can actually go scope out the properties yourself. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to find my way out of this back alley. Let's see if there's any pictures of the outside. There we go. So this is what the front of this comp looks like. And this is the front of our subject property. Do you think those are similar or pretty different?
I mean, as far as the condition, they're different, obviously. But I mean, this one has that attic, and I don't know if it has a basement or not.
Yeah. This is another tough one because it's slightly different in a lot of ways, but those differences are kind of starting to add up, right?
Yeah.
When I'm looking at the outside of the property, one thing I like to check is just in the neighborhood, are most of the houses very similar to each other? Like this is our subject property. The houses across the street, they kind of are very similar. And then we look at this comp and it stands out as pretty different.
Yeah.
So that's another factor. The next factor I like to look at is when it was built. So our comp was built in 1906 and our subject property was built in 1941, right? So with all of those things, we just looked at size, bedroom, bathroom, style, year built. With all of those things, do you think our comp is similar enough to our subject property to use it?
Maybe not. I mean, that's a pretty big difference in year built.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would probably say no. And sometimes this can be very hard to do. It can be hard to say, nope, that's not a comp. It doesn't qualify. Let me move on. Because it's like, oh, I want it to work so bad, right? But this saves us time and headache down the road. If we can go through this process and actually find comps that we feel good about, then we don't have to worry down the road that we put in all this work and the deal falls apart because from step one, we knew that it was kind of shaky.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. I agree.
Awesome.
So would you say that when we're looking for comps, that it's better to focus on the same size as far as bedrooms and baths go, similar time frame as a year built, and not so much on the square footage? Would you say? Not necessarily.
The way that I look at it is I think of like a funnel, right? So I think of if we have this funnel that I don't know, I was thinking of going to the beach as a kid and you play in the sand and you put a bunch of sand in the top and it kind of funnels it to the bottom. I think of everything that sold in the last 6 months in this neighborhood goes into the top of my funnel. So there's 39 homes right now. Then I look at the ones that make it from that top layer to the next smaller layer of the funnel are the ones that have been updated by an investor. So maybe we go through and we find that there are 10 properties that have been updated by an investor, right? So we just went from having 39 properties in the funnel to the next layer, we went to 10. Then I take those 10 properties that have been updated by an investor, and now I look at the square footage. If the square footage is similar enough, then great, they go to the next level. Let's say that 7, right? We go from 39 to 10 to 7 that are now nearby, updated by an investor, and similar square footage. Then of those 7, I look at the ones that are similar in the bedroom and bathroom count. If they're similar, they go to the next level. Let's say of those 7, 4 are similar, right? Now I'm good with bedroom, bathroom. Then I go to style. Of those 4, let's say all 4 match the style. Great, I've got 4. Then I look at the year built. Of the year built, let's say 3 are within a similar time frame that they were built. Now I've taken my 39 properties, moved them through each of those levels, and now I've got 3 that are similar in all of those categories that I can be confident are good comps.
Okay. And when we talk about year built, what would you say would be like the cutoff for plus or minus, you know?
So it depends. I think that the easiest ones are to say, like, if something's built in 1906 to 2006, that's a huge difference. There's 100 years difference in terms of building standards, right?
Yeah.
So that's a huge difference. That's an easy cutoff. We had a property that was 1906 to 1941. That still felt like a significant gap to us, right? We said, no thanks. That's too far.
Right.
So I don't think it's like a clear rule of thumb, but I think like 15 to 20 years is probably relatively okay. As we get closer to current day, though, that number probably shrinks because a property built in 2000 versus a property built in 2003, just last year, are also probably going to be pretty different. But
yeah,
a property built in 1920 and a property built in 1900, they're both 100 years old at this point. They've probably been through some renovations or need them. So that's kind of where it falls apart, right? Where we can't just say 20 years every time. Kind of got to think about, is it still brand new? Is it still really old, even if it's 1900 to 1920, and kind of use that gut feeling.
Okay.
And then if your other comps, right, if I've got a property that's built in 1900 and I've got 5 comps that are also built in 1900, and then I've got 1 that's built in 1935, well, then I might get rid of that 1935 one.
Okay.
Cool. Other questions on kind of how to move your comps through that realm?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I like that breakdown. And to think of it, you know, that visual as a funnel. I like that.
I'm going to use this property as the practice problem for everyone who's in the Run the Numbers program, which you are in. And so I'm just going to record myself going through and finding all of the comps and coming to an ARV for this property. And then I'll, of course, send you the link and send it to everybody else. And then you can kind of look at that and see what you think of it, but it'll show you kind of that step-by-step process.
Yeah. That'll be very helpful.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll send you that and the offer sheet with my terms.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Was this helpful?
Very helpful, yeah. Like I said, it's all just been very overwhelming to me. It's so much to take in. And this conversation has definitely helped.
Okay, I'm glad.
Zero in, especially on property evaluation.
Yep. And really, like, I think you have so many of the pieces, right? Like you said, you're obviously very organized. You're very capable. You're a self-starter. You're only 4 months in, and like you already have an air of confidence about you that I think is going to help you a ton. Once you really nail down on just analyzing those properties, feeling really confident about your offer price, I think that'll help you get to the next level.
Right on. Thank you.
Awesome, for sure. Thank you to Hector for coming on to the call. I'm super excited about where he is in his journey. And if you want help on your journey, remember that you can join the Run the Numbers monthly training program to get the chance to come on, talk with me one-on-one, and work together through a deal of your choosing. Until next time, it would mean the world to me if you would check and see if you're subscribed to the channel. And if not, just hit that button one time. It helps us grow, helps me continue doing the show. I appreciate it, and thank you for watching.